So good afternoon, everybody. Director Dundee, Vice Rector Espinal, members of the Board of Directors. It's a pleasure for me to be here this afternoon to present the once-a-year State of the Research for VCU that I do, and also provide you with a progress report of the Strategic Research Priorities Plan that we have here. As I did last time around, 12 months ago, I'm pleased to report that the 2021 State of the Research for VCU is growing, it's impactful, it is transformative, and it has been innovative. So this whole concept of transformative innovation is actually part, I think, of VCU's DNA. I present this slide to really, for the benefit of those of you who are new to VCU, to the VCU board, and those who are online, that the history of transformative innovation goes back in time, whether it was the work we were doing in organ transplantation, addiction and drug research, to one of our alumni who became a Nobel Prize winner, and one of our own faculty members here in the College of Humanities and Sciences who won the Nobel Prize for chemistry a few years ago. And today, we have a tremendous depth in research capabilities and expertise across disciplines on our various campuses. And while I will not be able to talk about all these people who are listed here, I will take a few of these examples of these fine experts and talk about how they are advancing our strategic research priorities. If you look at VCU's research, in just since 2018, we have grown 34%, 8% over the last year. This is really impressive. This growth that we see of $363 million in research funding, external funding, was across areas. In federal awards, actually, we were a little flat last year in the federal funding, although NIH went up a tad. Our industry funding went up significantly. State and gifts, etc., all demonstrated an increase. This increase that we saw was not in any one particular unit, but it was spread across most of our units or schools and colleges. Of course, the School of Medicine always ends up having the lion's share. That is very typical of any university that has a medical school. But the important point is, for a comprehensive research university like ours, with 13 schools and colleges, we truly have a diversified portfolio of funding from a variety of sources, and including the federal funding, not just the NIH, but also NSF and DOD and DOE and so on and so forth. That is truly a representation of a top-tier research university. All of this is happening because of the hard work of our faculty. Just in the last 4 years, since 2018, we have seen a tremendous surge in the number of grants that were submitted, and also the amount of funding that they sought. It went up by 41% since 2018, and that is reflected in the grants that we are seeing here. So the income that we saw, the increased revenue that we saw, was from a variety of sources, including innovations of ours that have led to more licensing income and royalties, and the number of startups that we have here. So if you just look at people, these innovations came from all schools and colleges, from the art school to humanities, to engineering, to pharmacy and medicine. And these are all people who are doing absolutely fascinating work, from virtual reality to drugs to vaccines and so on and so forth. If you just look at, in terms of numbers, the impact of what we have accomplished in the last 10 years, and just last year, started about 55 plus companies, raised about $70 million in startup funding by these companies, over $30 million of licensing revenue that's come into VCU that we have reinvested back so that we can do more technology and innovation. Just in the last year, close to $4 million in licensing revenue and 7 new startups. If we want to truly try and understand where we stack up with our peers, we compared ourselves with universities in the range of $250 to $350 million. of research expenditures. And this data, by the way, is a year before. This is the latest national data that we have. And amongst this peer, we are number 3 for startups, number 4 for patent applications, number 5 for invention disclosures. And this is impressive. But we are not just resting here. We want to do so much more than this, and we are capable, and we will. People keep asking, how do we stack up amongst our sister universities here in Virginia? We do better than most, barring UVA that continues to be a little more. The two big things are licensing income and startups. And if you look at that, we actually did better than UVA last year. The other area that we have been doing extremely well is in the area of clinical care and research, i.e. clinical trials. If you just look at where we were, we have grown by about 26%, just our clinical trials. And look at it, almost 6,000 patients that were enrolled in various trials, over 300 trials right here at VCU. Several were COVID related, but a lot were in other disciplines, including cancer. And these increased trials are going to be really important when the Massey Cancer Center seeks its comprehensive status in its application that's coming up. So when I was here last year, 12 months ago, I talked about the strategic plan that had been finalized, that our priorities, initiatives had been finalized, that focus areas within these priorities had been finalized, and I sought your approval to move forward with the operationalizing of the plan, with developing a budget, and moving forward with the implementation. And I will discuss some of that today now. But before I do that, I just want to remind all of you, especially those who are new to the board, the 4 priority areas, the 4 initiatives that define all the research that we do here at VCU, which is enriching the human experience, achieving a just and equitable society, optimizing health, and supporting and sustaining energy and environments. I will very briefly give you examples of each of these initiatives where our faculty are truly advancing and doing transformative research. And I'll give you some examples other than the ones that President Rao just talked about. If you look at what Dr. Kang Yi is doing, to research that he is doing in robotics, they have got NIH funding, and they're developing these seeing canes that can help visually impaired to move and navigate without having obstacles. This is like the GPS for cars, but will help the visually impaired. What better way of enriching the human experience? Happening right here in the College of Engineering. If you look at our second initiative, just as an example of achieving a just and equitable society, Dr. Christine Bay in the School of Education is using her research funded by the NSF to develop tools and techniques to educate teachers in 15 middle schools of Richmond to help advance scientific literacy among students, underrepresented minority students, and propel them towards STEM-based education. This is going to be powerful in this area. The third initiative where we do really well and is a major strength for VCU is optimizing health. Dr. Robert Wynn, whom you all know, and is the director of our Cancer Center, just in the last few months, he has received 3 NIH grants, about $5 million. And he is truly addressing health disparities, especially issues of lung cancer among Black communities, and also race-based issues that have barriers to care and employment. If you look at the example on the right of what Dr. Trost and Dr. Gorge are doing, they have received federal funding. And we are now a federally designated spinal cord consortium here. And together with the Traumatic Brain Injury Consortium, we are only one of 4 in the entire country to have that kind of a program here that is proving to be instrumental in transforming the quality of life of our patients. VCU is proud to be a home of some of the world's most highly cited investigators. If you look at Dr. Tom Eisenberg, who does tobacco research, he's leading a center for tobacco studies and tobacco products. Dr. Ken Kendler is the world's second highest cited investigator in the field of psychiatry, who is here and is then leading an institute called VIPPG, or the Virginia Institute for Psychiatric and Behavioral Genetics. And you just heard President Rao talk about Arun Tanyal and his fascinating work he's doing in liver disease. Between these three faculty members, ladies and gentlemen, they currently have about $42 million of research funding. It's fascinating what's going on here. On the right, we have other top-notch researchers who are working in the area of addiction. Last time I talked about pain. This is alcohol-related research. They're trying to find out the genetics and the behavioral things that drive people to alcoholism. Again, heavily funded by the NIH. The last initiative that I'll talk about is supporting and sustaining energies and environment. As an example, Dr. McGarvey and Dr. Vonish, through funding that they have from the NSF, they are looking at how to preserve our river water systems and our freshwater systems, James, here within Virginia and the Commonwealth and beyond. They're also using this funding to train the next generation of environmental students, especially underrepresented minorities, a cadre of students. Dr. Milos Manic, our computer science expert in the College of Engineering, he and colleagues here in Virginia and rest of the country that he's collaborating with, they are trying to address and secure the vulnerabilities that we have because of cybersecurity in areas of wind energy, nuclear energy, and solar energy, and in the manufacturing space. They're part of a $70 million DOE consortium. So when we look at our strategic plan, when I came here in May and briefly spoke about the fact that this was going to be a 6-year plan that we were going to have done in 3 phases, and I'll just talk a little bit about that, we realized that, oh, I forgot to mention about this slide. Aha! I should look at what I'm presenting to, I guess. When we talk of research excellence, we typically talk of our 2 campuses here. We rarely talk about our 3rd campus, which is the VCU Qatar campus. And the more I'm discovering about what they're doing there, the more fascinated I am. And I just wanted to share, and I'll talk to you a lot more in the future. They are truly a multidisciplinary hub and a cross-institutional research hub. Not only are they working with other Qatar Foundation universities there, but they're also interacting with our faculty here on the 2 campuses. They have research labs in nanotechnology for textiles and data art, and they're doing multimodal mathematics and doing all of this in emerging technologies and material studies, in visual cultures and all of that. And we are looking at potentially creating a research institute there to help advance the research they do. Which now brings me to this question. If we go about with this whole strategic plan and we continue to invest in and move forward with it, what is the impact of this going to be 6 years from now? Really, that is important for us to understand. If we just continue to invest in the programs that our faculty are doing today, not trying to do something new that we haven't done before, invest in what they're doing and amplify that, and in our people, in areas of community-based research, in the innovations that we are seeing in arts and humanities, in cybersecurity and artificial intelligence, etc., in the research for sustainable energies that we are doing in manufacturing, the drug discoveries and vaccine developments that are taking place, through public health research that is currently going on and will amplify with this new school, and in areas of clinical research and trials that we are going to expand, and the fundamental sciences that we do, we see VCU will truly be in a much better place than we are today to inform public policy and practice, to create the sustainable solutions that we need, address societal issues, especially on the vulnerabilities that are critical to the nation, prepare for future energy needs, the health breakthroughs that we need, and all of this through an inclusive culture that is going to be really important, and people like Ashir and others are really leading that effort. So how will we go about doing something like this? Can't seem to move the slide forward.
Sorry. Right.
Yep. So what are we going to do? We want to actually be able to measure some of the deliverables. President Rao talked about it. It came up in the conversations. We need to make sure and quantify what is the increased number of undergraduates who will be immersed in the research enterprise and our graduate students. That is going to be key. We will see improved ranking of our research programs, our schools across the board 6 years from now. We will gradually see that. More community-based research, leadership in health disparities research, and increased clinical trials. And we will truly see an impact of that on Massey, which will become a comprehensive cancer research center. I think the targets that we are looking at are being over 400 million in sponsored funding, being a top 50 public research university, close to 400 or 500 million in research expenditures, and doubling all the startups and technology and innovation. And I'm happy to answer some of those questions that we can discuss in the discussion part. So how are we going to do this? Real quick, President Rao and I, we just announced 10 days ago, or no, it's been a couple of weeks now, that we will invest as part of the first phase of our strategic plan, $10 million to augment what is happening here, to invest in our commercialization opportunities, to advance technologies, to develop seed grants that faculty can leverage, $1 million there, to accelerate interdisciplinary research that is going on today. 1.5 million we are committing there. And truly those big ideas where you need to spend time and bring transdisciplinary work across campuses together, we're investing another 2.5 million. We've just released all of this 10 days ago, the formal announcements went out. So this is actually in practice now. And we will be investing money into state-of-the-art equipment. And I know our provost, he is working on creating new innovative ideas for transdisciplinary research, especially in the humanities area, and he'll be talking a lot more about that in the future. It is important, and this came up, it is important that in addition to investing in our human capital and talent and projects, we have to invest in resources in the form of infrastructure that we need, and buildings, and hiring, and all of that. So through, I think, investment in our institutes and centers, we can drive technology commercialization by bringing together VCU and VCU Health and breaking down the barriers. There are still a few. Increase clinical trials and research, and a variety of these things where we need to increase more hiring that needs to happen, cluster hires, etc. I think we are going to have to commit to doing all of that and reducing the burden of administrative burden that our faculty have. And the other area is communications and strengthen global partnerships. All of this is truly a collaborative effort with the provost's office, with our academic leaders, and it's a unified approach. The last slide that I have is just a reminder that when we talk of VCU, we many a times think of it from a local nuance and a regional nuance. But if we just look at the active academic collaborations that are going on and our research collaborations that are going on today, these are real ones, our footprint is all across the globe. I don't want to walk away with us thinking these are massive operations, but we have a footprint in all these places. So with the president's office, the provost's office, and ours and others, we are going to strategize. How do we leverage these opportunities so that we can enhance student enrollment, international student enrollment, and build on the research opportunities that are going to be possible? So with that, I would like to close and say, really, I'm grateful to the so many of our talented faculty who have made this possible for VCU to be truly this research enterprise that it is, and to my talented leadership group that are all there sitting behind, and many others who have all made it possible for VCU research enterprise to be thriving and truly be transformative. This is a collaborative effort, and I want to thank all of you who have been so instrumental, and you board members for making it possible.